Hello and welcome to In the Basement.
What's up?
Today we will be talking about Alien from 1979.
Alien.
Alien.
So, what was your relationship to the film before you saw it?
I didn't really have a pre-existing relationship with it beforehand. I have watched a couple of horror movies from that era.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for example, I guess the closest thing would be The Thing.
John Carpenter's The Thing.
But except for that, I didn't really have a lot of I didn't really know what to expect or anything from the movie really.
Yeah. No, I saw it for the first time in 2010, I think, when I was 16, and prior to that, I went in kind of very raw, as so to speak. I didn't know much about the film, and yeah, and I ended up really liking it the first time. I think I saw it at an age where I think I was a little too old to be scared by it, which is the same case with you, I think.
Yeah. Do you think that could have something to do with how you actually perceive the film? Like, at which age you actually
Yeah.
watch it? Would it have more of an impact on you if you watched it at a young age
Oh, yeah.
compared to?
Much more.
Yeah.
Because at 16, at least people from our generation and younger now have seen worse things. They've seen things on television or
Yeah.
YouTube or Live Leak or Instagram or something.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I wasn't that scared, but I was really impressed by it, or I continue to be so, because maybe we should talk about the effects of the film. Because what did you think of those?
I mean, one thing I really noticed is that I feel like a lot of science fiction movies of that era is I feel a lot of it is focused on being clean and looking very, sciencey, very modern, very new. And I feel like this movie also somewhat did that, but at the same time, I felt like even though they're in space, they're in this big spaceship.
Yeah.
I feel like this could have just been a regular workplace anywhere.
Yeah.
Honestly, it just felt like a workplace,
Yeah.
very normal,
There was
so
a
to
lot
speak.
of filth everywhere. And the other thing that is important to notice, that the characters in this they're not scientists. They got one science officer, but they're basically space truckers. So it's like, it makes sense that they're not that their equipment isn't that stellar and such. Because I actually think the effects in this look better than the effects in Star Wars that came out 2 years before it. And I feel they both use model work, where they just make models and
Yeah.
but they also, in Star Wars there's so many kinetic movements, so many fast movements, laser shooting and such. Whereas this one, it's like the spaceship moves at this speed in space. It's very it just makes it look better. It just, to me, the film has just aged really well in that respect.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, same with the creature effects, where I guess you can see it as a costume, but it works.
Yeah, about that, I think one of the things I really like about it is that usually when it comes to horror movies in general, I like it when they leave a lot up to the imagination.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when it comes to the monster or alien or whatever, I
Yeah.
feel like they don't really show it that much.
No.
And I feel like that really makes it much scarier.
It is.
Adding to your point when it comes to, how it ages or how it looks now compared to then,
Yeah.
I feel like that helps the movie considering we don't see the monster that much.
Very true.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the characters? Because you weren't that familiar with the franchise, so you didn't really know who was the.
Yeah, I didn't really know any of the
Yeah.
characters beforehand. I do what I did like was I really felt like they were relatable, normal characters. Like
Yeah.
I felt like these characters were people I could actually meet or see in real life.
Oh yeah.
And the dynamic and the relationship between them and that they had different views and values and stuff when it came to different dilemmas and problems. I really felt like that was realistic. I really
Yeah.
liked how that worked. And I do think though from the beginning I really liked that. What was her name in it? Ripley.
Ripley.
Yeah, that was the one who survived, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really felt like from the beginning I felt like she came off as the most intelligent one and the most
Yeah.
logical one. So I really felt at the same time that it made sense that she was the one who survived
Yeah.
compared to the others.
Yeah, because I remember when we rewatched it at the cinema. What's kind of interesting is that she's not the captain. I think she's second or third in command.
Yeah.
Second in command maybe. And the guy who's the captain, he when you look at him, you can tell that. You know, you can kind of tell that in a more traditional film he would be the hero.
Yeah.
And I've also heard that all of the characters they were not written with a specific sex or gender in mind. So they just casted them pretty arbitrarily, I guess. Yeah. And that kind of shows because there's, you know, that they're not very, you know, all of the characters, you know, the. Yeah, no, I think for me it was very. I think the acting is very good from all of the people involved. It's they're able to convey those fears very well and the emotions very well, and yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to the acting, I feel like most of them acted very well. Like I could, like you know, showing fear on camera.
Yeah.
That is. It is a hard thing to do and make it realistic, but I really felt like the characters were able to do that, or the actors.
I also going back to the effects. I mean, I think the use of miniatures and the use of what would be the word the kind of is it forced perspective?
Well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I can check it out later, but I just feel that a lot of everything you see in this film, as far as I know, maybe we watched a new edition, but everything you see in this film is made not by computers. It's just made by set decorators.
Yeah,
and it looks,
that's impressive.
Yeah, and it looks really good.
It does.
Very rarely does anything in this film look outdated and fake. Like especially when they go down in the cave and they check out the eggs, and you see the space jockey, as they call him, the guy in the you know, it looks completely real.
Yeah.
And when you compare it to I watched the new Avatar movie, the Fire and Ash, in theaters lately, and you know, that's a great looking movie, but you kind of always think that this is CGI.
Yeah.
And it kind of hits you all the time, whereas this one you kind of you're feeling that it looks kind of real, and I find that very impressive.
Yeah.
It you know, it's not really an outdated film at all.
No, but that's what I think as well, and that's exactly why it becomes so scary to me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like even though the whole setting itself is kind of unrealistic, being in space, being surrounded by aliens of all things, I mean, it still has that kind of realism to it.
Yeah.
That makes it so scary to me.
Yeah.
And I also would say that I think another part of why the movie just comes off as so scary to me is it's kind of the same thing in the thing, but it's the part about the isolation.
Oh
part.
yeah.
It like when you're in space, like I don't have any experience with it of my own, of course, but still I can relate to the feeling of, you know, having no escape. There is like there's no one there to save you. You're completely on your own.
Yeah.
If things messes up,
I mean,
that's it.
The tagline for the film was "In space, nobody can hear you scream."
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
very true.
Yeah.
So
That's a good line.
Yeah, it is. It is a very good. Yeah. Do you have any? Are there any flaws to the film for you? Is there some issues with the pacing?
There wasn't really anything I thought of like immediately. I think I don't know about you.
I don't know. I find. I guess it's the part where she decides to blow up the ship, and then maybe some of that could have been reduced a little bit because I felt that it became a little repetitive.
Yeah. That it was a very long sequence.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Maybe they could have cut that down a little bit.
And I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I did kind of like that they had a pet on board.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really felt like that part kind of made it silly at times, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it makes sense for like a realistic perspective that you have a pet on board with you to keep the
Yeah.
morale or high.
Yeah,
But,
or I guess a mouser, as they're called. Cats that are there to take pests or
Yeah,
rats and such.
I don't know if you really find a lot of rats on board a spaceship though, but
Or maybe I mean if they make port on Earth, maybe they can sneak on board. But
yeah.
maybe maybe I mean I also I remember thinking that she went back for the cat,
Mm.
and I hope I would do that, but
Yeah.
when there's like an alien thing there that has killed
Yeah.
everybody, maybe my first priority wouldn't be to run back to
Yeah.
get a cat.
But actually, the funny thing is that I actually was thinking about it as it happened. Like, because of the cat, I was like, is she gonna go back for the cat?
Yeah.
Is she just gonna leave him behind?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I really feel like when you introduce something in a movie,
Yeah.
you have to address it. You
Yeah.
can just forget about it
Yeah.
halfway.
Very
If it
true.
dies, fine, but then you have to show it.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
just forget it.
Yeah.
But
No, that's a good point. No, I apart from that, I think it's a great film.
mm,
I think I might like the first part before the reveal of the monster the best because it's such a great build up.
Mm.
No, but it's such a joy to see how well the film builds up, and it's quite slow paced, and I feel that works very well in most movies.
Yeah, I guess it's just a matter of taste, honestly. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like in horror movies, to really have the whole thing pay off, you need to have a kind of build up in the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it could be cool with a hook or a prologue or something
Yeah.
to just kick things off so you know what the stakes are.
Yeah.
But it kind of depends. It kind of depends, and I think it works just fine for this movie the way it
Yeah.
is. And I really felt like, I think one of the most creepy parts for me was in the beginning when they landed on that planet,
Yeah.
and they had to go out and
Check.
explore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because already there I felt like, oh shit, something is going to go down
Yeah.
and it's going to be bad. But I
Yeah.
don't know exactly where. I don't know who is going to be affected
Oh.
by it. I realized that, considering I knew like the premise of the movie before I watched it, so I knew something most likely would happen,
Yeah.
and that makes it actually really creepy.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I thought so too. I don't remember because I've seen the film for so long, so I don't remember my thoughts when I saw it. But it's you just feel like a feeling of dread when they get out because you know that something. You know that something is coming. Even if you've seen the film before, you get that feeling that shit.
Yeah.
So how high would you rank it among other horror films that you've seen? Would it be high up or?
I mean, I would say it's probably one of the horror movies that made me really feel uneasy.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's very rare that I actually get scared by a
Yeah.
movie, but it made me feel uncomfortable,
Yeah,
and I think that's impressive in itself.
For
So
such an old film, yeah.
Yeah, so I would probably rank it fairly high. I
Yeah.
guess, like I said, the closest movie I have to compare it to is probably The Thing.
Yeah.
And I think both of them works in several ways. I feel like one thing both movies do really well is that I feel like the characters, the actions they do, or
Yeah.
the choices they make, it makes sense.
Yeah, and
You know?
the characters are all well defined.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
It's not like it doesn't every time a character dies, it doesn't feel forced
Yeah,
or
yeah,
just
yeah.
as a matter of getting rid of the characters
yeah.
one by one.
I
Those
agree.
those kind of things that kind of pisses me off. I mean, I can accept it, but I don't really take the movie that seriously as a result.
Very true. There's a lot of horror movies where characters die because they do dumb things
Yeah.
because the movie needs them to die at that point.
Yeah,
Whereas
exactly.
in the Thing and in Alien, it's a both well written script. So they I mean characters make mistakes.
Yeah,
but
yeah, of
they
course.
make mistakes that you can't blame them for in the situation. With the captain he's in the shaft.
Yeah.
And it's like where's it coming from?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's very understandable that he would get eaten at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would probably say that The Thing is a little bit scarier in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
But that's simply because I feel like in Alien,
Yeah.
it was more about, no matter how scary the monster is, you already know that everyone is united against
Yeah.
a common enemy.
Yeah.
But in the Thing, you never really know
that's
who
true.
the enemy is,
Yeah.
and that makes it kind of more creepy, in my opinion.
That's a good
But
point.
yeah, but
I feel Alien is a bit more intense. If that
yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense.
that I can agree on.
With the
Yeah.
bomb going off and them being in such a large ship.
Yeah.
But I agree that the Thing is a bit creepier because of the nature of the monster and such. No, I think what how high I would rank Alien. I think it's either number 1 or 2 for me. The other,
Like horror movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's either that or Jaws, I guess, which I consider a horror movie.
Yeah.
Neither of those movies scare me that much anymore, but they have such good. The thing is that a lot of horror movies, they don't work good as movies otherwise, whereas those movies are just great films that happen to be horror movies.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And I just, you don't see those kinds of horror movies very often, and you never have. I mean, I think the last great horror movie that I saw was maybe new horror movie, maybe Hereditary from 2018.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
of course, I think that's much scarier than these two. But it's also happened. It also happens to be a really good movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but that makes sense. I mean, in order for me to rank a horror movie very highly, it can't just rely on jump scares or being scary on its own. It's gotta have like a plot. It's gotta have characters that I should care for, that I want to succeed, or like
and a creepy feeling.
Yeah.
That you're sitting there with.
Exactly.
So, what would you give Alien from a scale from 1 to 10?
Usually, I don't really like to give movies. No. But I don't really like to give movies like a full score, like 10 out of 10, because in my opinion, that's kind of like my sentimental values, maybe. But I usually don't really consider anything perfect. There's always something that can be done. But if you take that in mind, I would probably maybe give it 7 or 8. I think.
7 or okay. That's
yeah,
a good
yeah,
score.
and I think maybe some people would say, okay, you could have given it a high score, but usually I don't give horror movies a very high score because, I don't really consider them good movies, even if they're scary.
That's very true.
Yeah.
No, that's very true. I mean, I remember I saw Sinister, which and that's a scary film.
Yeah.
But the film itself isn't that good.
Yeah.
I think the twist was a little lackluster. I kind of hoped that there would be something more to the whole thing, but not really. Me, on the other hand, I mean, I think I give it a 10 because I rate it that highly.
Okay.
I think it is one of the 2 best horror movies ever made, and probably one of the best movies ever made.
That's fair enough.
So I think I'll give it that rating. That's solid.
So you would recommend it? Like, what kind of people would you recommend it to?
Oh, for everybody.
Yeah, for everybody.
Because it's not that scary. To be honest, it's more creepy than scary. And I think most people can watch this. I even think teenagers as young as let's say 13 can watch this.
Yeah, I would say so.
Maybe even younger. Maybe even 10
I
or
guess
12
it depends on the child itself.
Yeah, really. But
like with everything.
Yeah, I feel if you want to show this to your children, you can.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
It's not that scary.
No, that's very true.
So yeah, I would recommend it, and yeah.
Me too.
So Sigourney Weaver. Yeah. Do you want to subscribe to In the Basement?
No.
I can't do that, and if you were in my position, you'd do the same.